Hi, I'm Kawa, and this is QWA Podcast. In this show, we invite friends from the architectural fraternity for a casual conversation. From design think tank to integrated practice, we discuss the trials and tribulations of architectural pursuit. We hope this informal sharing will spark conversation among the listeners. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. Here with me today, we have a special guest. We have Sim, which I used to tutor her in tailors, but now she have gone overseas and graduated from UCL Bartlett in Master of Design for Performance and Interaction. So maybe as an introduction, maybe you can introduce yourself and talk a bit about what are the work that you did at your master level in Bartlett.
Sure. Hello guys in advance. So again, my name is Sim and thank you Kawa for the invite to this podcast. And yeah, speaking about the master program that I did in the Bartlett, so I was actually part of the Interactive Architecture Lab and still am. And this lab is basically the core of the whole master program that I graduated from. So art design for performance and interactions. Yeah. So I think that the core of the course revolves around the behavior and interaction of things and also inhabitants, and of course not to forget the environment. So I think I'd say it's a very interdisciplinary approach where things that we do, because that involves research or like prototyping and collaborations. So I'd say it's really cross-disciplinary. So for example, it's like during my studies, we do actually had a lot of opportunities to be involved in different kind of collaborations on big scale or smaller scales with industries or even with artists, included, like Kimchi and Chips, or even our own director, Rory Green, and more. So I think also with the cross structure, the core structures that's provided, we had the opportunity to explore on things that I never thought that they existed before I went there, and I never thought that I would actually had the chance to get my hands on. Like for example, like responsive technologies, building robots, using robot arms to cut certain things, and coding, controlling robots, or even biosensing. We talk about hacking or like cyborg. Like these are the things that never came into my head when I was doing my bachelor back then. So yeah, there's like we develop computational skills, and then we learn how to design for human conditions as center of like we explore on the movement on body, and then how it is interrelated with our mind, body, and the space, physical and virtually. And then we also get to work closely with different kind of research department, such as even neurosciences department in UCL. And then we get to take part in the conferences, or even get to be involved in VR experience or AR experience curations with them. So I think I'd say there's a huge range of things that I learned during my studies in the Bartlett.
Yeah, I think for the past few months when you and Joanne came back, I think that's the first time I felt like a dinosaur, because all the things you converse now is already so advanced. And obviously these new disciplines of design is very specialized, I would say, and future forward. And I saw some of the image. I think you shared some image. We met a few times in Penang. And, maybe this is how we can learn, what it really means to be a human, I guess. So maybe you can talk a bit about your work that you did during the program.
Yeah, sure. I think there's quite a wide range, but I'm just going to share the top 3 that I thought they were very interesting and like a game changer for the whole architecture scene, from my own opinion.
Right.
So I think the similarities of my work are basically, most of them, they revolves around embodiment and consciousness. So, and most of them were basically curated for human condition center of body, mind, and space, as mentioned earlier. So for example, there was this VR project that I worked closely with my classmates back then. So we managed to make it into experiences basically during the presentations, and also it was exhibited for few days for people to have fun with it. So the VR experiences that we designed were basically consisted with a series of experiments that to explore the idea of how our emotions and movements are actually tied up and related to our space. You know, like for example, we talk about how do people behave when they are scared or when they are sad, you know, things like that. Like for example, how sitting under the table would make you feel more comfortable, but how would sitting under the table would somehow trigger the emotions of fear, for example, for people that grew up from different backgrounds. So these were the things that we explored during the VR experiences. And I thought that was very interesting because, yeah, I think it involves some sort of like psychology and neurosciences theory. And then also another thing that what we were involved is basically I work with, again, like peers lah. It's always like collaborative kind of work. So we created a soundscape to propose a large-scale interactive sound installations that we wanted to explore the intangible of the space. So in this case, we wanted to explore the relationship between the sound and space by designing a soundscape using the idea of biomimetic or flocking behavior. So the technology or like technical part of it comprises of few sets of self-organizing modules or mini robots in a layman term. Yeah, and then they are basically self-independent modules that they would interact with each other over distance. So, and then we used a software that I think it's familiar to almost like everyone in architecture field. We use Rhino, but we added a plugin, which is called Pachyderm plugin, to help us to simulate the acoustical simulations to design the space. Because by using that plugin in Rhino, we are actually able to insert what kind of materials, or like we can adjust the sizes of the space, and then we can visualize how the sound travel in the space. So these were the tools that is really useful to curate something that is a space that is related to sound. And then last but not least, yeah, with the screenshot that Kawa is sharing now. Yeah, that's my graduate project, Neoteny. So it's a wearable technology, and then that explores how our daily life or our daily experiences can be more diversified and enriched. And also how can we allow memories to be more deeply reinforced to assist our daily performance. So I mean, like when I started this one, like a lot of questions that I got from friends was basically, how is this related to architecture? You know, like again, it ties back to the questions of how our body and mind reacts to you know, like the physical space and virtual space. So this project, again, like, you know, everyone behaves differently. So that's why this project, the starting point of this project is basically uses the body of the designer or researcher, which is myself. So I curated a wearable technology using different series of experiments on myself, and then recorded all the data virtually and also in data formats to back up my statement basically. So on the tech side, so yeah, I forgot to mention. Okay, yeah, we wanted to explore the possibilities of how we can enhance memories by referencing our body movement with olfactory stimuli. So on the technical side, biosensing technology were incorporated, and then it's used to detect the muscle activity levels to trigger, and therefore it would trigger the blending or like the delivery of smells, and then to the wearer, which is me in this case. So yeah, and then yeah, and then this has been exhibited in Ars Electronica Festival in Austria 2018. Yeah, and then I think that's a lot of things to talk about Neoteny actually, because it's a full-length research project. So I think I would somehow share the link with Kawa later, so you can attach in the descriptions.
Yeah, please do. I mean, all this, of course, a bit more advanced gadgetry than our smartphone, smartwatch. Maybe this is could be the next step. And I saw that there's a lot of potential, especially in China. There's a lot of hardware development, and I think you went there. I think for a while, and eventually come back for good. So maybe since you come back, do you really see any application of your knowledge in your work today?
I learned to manage the expectation, but slowly but surely. Okay. And then, and also I think, I managed to implement one of the idea in our recent window display installation for a client, Christy Ng. Mm-hmm. So I think I consider myself quite fortunate at that time because not a lot of people are open for ideas like that, especially things that hasn't been done before. So Christy Ng were on board with our proposal for a kinetic window display basically. And then what have motivated us to contribute to the idea is basically the hunger of really want to push the boundary of aesthetic or like traditional ways of displaying a product, and then or even to curate a simple like retail window display. So so we were looking into something that can carry stories and ideas by itself by implementing the existing technologies that we already have around us. Mm-hmm. So for this particular installation, these are all the sensors and stuff. So for this particular installation, the strategic thinking behind is basically to try to give the opportunity for creative spin-offs. And then we're trying to lay the groundwork for the future of more engaging designs, hopefully. And then we would love to also to link, like the window display with the wider world of fashion in a completely novel way by using different kind of approach, like whatever things that is curating, whatever ideas that's in your head, it's either theatrically or like different kind of immersive approach. I'd say. So these are the things that we're trying to push. It's basically pushing the boundaries between the physical and virtual and making use of things that we didn't know that they exist and then to implement it into real world.
So what does I saw the sensor light, the red light blipping up when the paper go through it. So what does this installation actually showing mm-hmm. or how the software interact with the mechanical parts?
Okay, so basically, the brief was fairly straightforward. Mm-hmm. That the client wanted something that is to promote her merchandise that is personalized. Like people are able to, the buyer have the opportunity to personalize their own name or whatever things that they wanted to write on the back. Mm-hmm. So technically, the inputs for these whole mechanical systems are names, and then. Of course, in order to bring this to life, we actually work closely with professional electronic engineers to build this, building the rims to make it sustainable, to make it not break down and things like that, to bring things from prototype level to, the real product level. So the red light thingy that you saw in the video is actually light gate sensors. So it actually acts as the encoder for each strips because there's like 5 strips. Right. So this also gives the system the ability to be able to trace the exact blocks of alphabets moving because we are trying to form names, with their positions on each strips. So and also I think what was huge steps for us was basically because sometimes things like that is very hard to predict, and also sometimes we want to diagnose like what could possibly went wrong when we're not on site. Mm-hmm. So what happened is we actually designed a cloud system that was also configured where the system will automatically be communicating one way to the cloud. Mm-hmm. And then we are also able to monitor it on offsite. Basically, we don't have to be there to see what actually happens. So I think that's the approach that we were trying to design to bridge the virtual and physical by using, again, ties back to whatever that we mentioned earlier.
I think it's such a great start. I mean, you have the opportunity to actually convince a client, which is great. But as you mentioned, you kind of need like an electronic engineer to do it. But what are other things that you need to have or to assemble to make it happen? I mean, of course, I think fabricator and all that is fairly
Yeah.
lacking compared to overseas. So what do we actually need to get this industry moving?
I just somehow feel like, Malaysia, there's like such, it's full of opportunities and potentials, but it's just that I think what is really lacking here is the platforms to collaborate, to find people. Because I remember when I first came back, I couldn't build the whole thing from scratch by myself because I don't have that M&E engineer's background. All I could is, like prototype and understand the fundamentals. That's all. So I think I struggled a bit to find the right person to execute this with me, with us. So yeah, I feel like educations and the platform for collaborations is definitely lacking slightly, or maybe I've yet to explore that. I don't know, but I think that will contribute a lot. And then also, like to making things like that, again, we have to tie in like different kind of professions into a project. And also it depends on the scale of the project. So that, for example, if you're talking about interactive stage design, then of course we will need like a VJ, a visual DJ, and then need a DJ. And then if let's say we wanted like a holographic projections, then we will need somebody that specializes in that kind of like that kind of large scale projects. And then also if we are talking about cool animations and things like that, we need professional visual designers or like animators to come together and to make things happen. So yeah, we need a huge range of professions to step in and contribute and to make things come into life. Just imagine like how you play games, like for example Dota, all the heroes, you have your own role, you are a carry or you're a fighter.
Support,
yeah, exactly. But then you know what you should do, and then the goal is to win the game. And then you know when you should jump in, and you know when you should jump out. You know when you should farm, and you know when you should, like sacrifice yourself to build something. So yeah, collaborations, cross-disciplinary platform, all together.
These people have do you think that they actually have the knowledge, but they don't actually know that it could be applied in such manner? Like maybe they are electronic engineer, but they don't know that if we could apply it in such a creative installation or creative environment. Is it like that?
Yeah, I came across some of my friends. They are like engineers and stuff, but when I spoke to them in a more creatively way, that the idea, this is the concept, and we want to build this, how can we do that? And then they will be like, this is impossible. But if you propose to them in different ways as such that it's more technical, using their terminology, like using a coding language, or like some language that engineers use, that basically something that's more professional, their terminologies, they will be able to tell you what to do and what not. So I feel like the knowledge is there, but the idea of pushing it to different disciplines is not there. It's like the stepping out of the comfort zone is not there. It's just like being framed or working on a framework that has been fixed. So yeah, I think that needs a bridge to link all these kind of disciplines together, and therefore there will be more brainstorm sessions and then build something.
Yeah, but what I like about you and Joanne is that you guys don't just sit around. Instead you guys try to educate people. Obviously in Malaysia, architecture education does not cover coding at all. And that's why I think some young people really appreciate you guys putting up small bite-sized coding principles, with coming up with this collective called kod-kod, KOD. And I think when you have that ability, where do you think architect can market themselves? I mean, obviously this is beyond physical building. This is more to problem solving, and as long as you can code, you can almost simulate, generate or move any mechanized thing. So what is the future of an architect that can code?
I mean, first thing, we are all trained to be critical in terms when it comes to design, like higher design sensibility. So I think where architects can definitely step in and play a huge role is basically in strategic, and also the mediator that ties different kind of professions together. Because like architecture, when we do research, when we do design realization, it involves a lot like different kind of research, and then we would somehow like touch a little bit here and there and stuff. But while doing that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It means that you are actually kind of exploring different way of executions of an idea and things like that. So I definitely see architects playing a huge role as a mediator and also like a strategic planner to make all these things happen. Yeah, and then there's a lot of people, even I think there's majority of people that they still think that, I graduated as an architect, but then if let's say coding is the future right now and I can't code, so what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen to my career and things like that? I can't code and then I'm doomed. But it's actually not. But having the fundamentals of coding, understanding how all this system works is sufficient for you to communicate with different disciplines, for example. It's just like how universal language, like how we speak English, and then we speak different kind of languages, things like that. So yeah, and then also architecture, of course, we have the ability, we are trained to draw. Same thing. We will be able to help people to visualize ideas by tying all these kind of different kind of weird technologies or like new things inside the ideas. So yeah, I think that's how I see where architects should position themselves in.
Yeah, I think education is really important, and of course, posting online is a way to reach more people. But for young designers, actually, yeah.
I would like to add in one more thing.
Right.
That why coding is important, because I still remember during my first year of bachelor's that I think every beginning of the projects that we always have to go for site analysis, and then we talk about tangible and intangible, and how do you extract intangible data. Last time back then, you don't have a data to back you up. You said that, this place is smelly and this place is not, but to what scale is smelly and what not. So this is again where technology steps in, that what if you have a wearable technologies that helps you to track all this kind of data. For example, just like our smartwatch, like how it's able to trace, like our heart rate and things like that. So all these things, again, it contributes back to the research of how architects can help to build a better place. It's just like UN Studio, they have their own daughter companies called Unsense Tech, where they develop different kind of research using technologies and different kind of platforms. So I think that.
So it's important, I think, to quantify, even though it's intangible, but quantify the relativity of, those intangible stuff. But so where do you think a young designer should start? Is there like a language that is easier to one another, or maybe language that have a little bit more resources online?
Yeah, I think generally most of the coding language right now, they are open source. So like processing or Arduino. I personally started off with Arduino basics and also processing at the same time. But I think it might be very confusing for beginners that wanted to learn by themselves and all. So I say for someone that is new to programming, they can start from processing coding first, because again, that's fairly straightforward, and then it also sufficient to give like rough idea of the logic behind coding. Yeah, and then after that, that fundamentals, that logical thinking could be implemented into different kind of coding language. It's just like how we speak in Chinese, there's a different dialects, Hokkien, Hakka. It means the same thing, it's just that it's in different dialects. So yeah, same thing goes to coding.
So once you know one language, it's easier to migrate to the
migrate. Okay. Get the passport first.
Right. So I kod-kod thinking of doing any physical class soon, due to the fact that we are reaching the end of MCO almost. Is there any plans?
We are curating virtual basic classes for now. So I think we will start to talk about a little bit of like theories behind cybernetic theories, and then that kind of feedback loop before we actually step into an actual coding stuff. And also, of course, that's a lifelong learning process where we all are still learning. But yeah, I think that's definitely is part of the plan actually. So we were able to like get more young audiences, or even like anyone that is interested in taking part in this journey, and then we would love to, of course.
Yeah. For
That's
young and the young at heart. Thank you, Sim. I think you can follow Sim on Instagram. The account called @LadySim, LADYSIM_. Thank you so much. And please subscribe to QWA YouTube channel. And see you guys again until the next one. Take care. Bye. If you enjoyed the session, be sure to subscribe to QWA YouTube channel so you will be notified if a new episode is posted. Thank you for listening. Until next time.